Hey, soul fam. Welcome back. Today we're diving into something tender, something many of us carry quietly, religious guilt, and more importantly, how to heal from it. This is part 2 of the Unchurched series, The Sacred and Unfiltered. And if part 1 cracked something open for you, today we're going deeper into what it means to release guilt, reclaim your spirit, and come home to yourself without the rules, the fear, or the shame that was never yours to hold. This isn't an episode about dismissing anyone's faith or dragging your past. This is an episode about healing the residue, the conditioning, the be small so you'll be accepted messaging. So if you've ever felt like you were too much, not enough, or sinful by default, take a breath with me. All right, because today we're rewriting some things. It's who I am with all the problems that you see. Can't be nobody else, a goddess that's me. What you see is what you get. You ain't seen nothing yet. Guarantee sure bet. Are you ready? I'm coming out. I'm coming out. I'm coming in. Today, I want to begin gently, because gently might be a language no one ever spoke to you in the places where you learned about God. Maybe you were taught certainty before compassion, answers before curiosity, and fear before belonging. But as you press play today, I want you to imagine that you and I are sitting somewhere in a quiet room, a soft morning, a moment where your soul finally unclenches just a little. And I want you to offer you something simple, something small, but sincere. I want you to know nothing about your essence was ever a liability to the divine. Nothing. Not your sensitivity, not your questions, not your intuition, not your joy, not your body, not your desire to understand your own life and yourself. But many of us were raised in systems that taught us the opposite, that who we are is somehow dangerous or flawed or suspicious in the eyes of God. Today, we're going to loosen the grip that guilt has had on your identity. Not by rejecting your spirituality, but by reclaiming it, re-anchoring it, rebuilding your connection to the sacred in a way that feels true again. So let's begin at the root. Not the theology, not the doctrine, but the wound. Because before we can release guilt, we need to understand how it got inside of us in the first place. So let's talk about the messaging we internalized. Not the sermons we remember, but the ones we absorbed without even realizing. The messages we internalized as kids, there were the overt statements. And then there were the subtle ones, the side eyes, the disappointed sighs, the moments you learned your body, your thoughts, your voice were too much or not enough. So let's stretch each one open and take a look at it. So, you're too emotional, which quietly translated into your sensitivity is a flaw. It created a lifelong mistrust of your own tenderness, your own beautiful heart. Your body is dangerous, which became shame intertwined with sexuality, desire, and embodiment. Questioning is rebellion, which translated into your intuition cannot be trusted, even though intuition is one of the oldest ways humans connect with the sacred. Obedience equals holiness, which translated into compliance is goodness. And we learn to confuse shrinking with being righteous. Each of these messages is like a small stone placed inside a child's pocket. It's light at first, almost nothing, but over time, a pocket full of stones starts to change the way you walk. It becomes heavy and burdensome. So, another one that we could take a look at here was guilt as a behavioral tool. So here's something no one told us when we were younger. Many churches relied on guilt because guilt is cheap. Guilt doesn't require relationship. It doesn't require nuance. It doesn't require curiosity. It only requires fear. And children between the ages of 7 and 13 are especially vulnerable to guilt. Before the age of 7, that is all of our formative. So we are between 0 and 7 or 0 and 8. We are everything we've learned, experienced, and taken on, we remember. We take it on as part of our identity. But between the ages of 7 and 13, that preteen, that time is when we're really stepping into our identity and stepping into how all the things that we learned, now we're applying. So, because we're especially vulnerable to guilt, it's not, because we're sinful. It's not because we're broken or need to be fixed. It's because our brains are developing the part that connects behavior to belonging. So guilt lands fast. It sinks in deep and it stays. So this reminds me of a time where it was one of the last times that I ever went to formal church. It was one of my favorite places. I have sought for God since I was age 9. And I was looking for love. I was looking for God. And I've been raised at that point Catholic. And we got into the Catholic religion. And then, we branched into like Presbyterian and Lutheran and that kind of thing. But I remember as my religious journey evolved, I was in college and I found this non-denominational church that I just absolutely loved. I loved the music. I loved the pastor because he really was unconventional. Like, he was one of the first pastors that was like, look, ladies, some of you need to wear pants, right? Like, you don't need to wear dresses. Don't wear the dresses. You look uncomfortable. You look awkward. You don't even want to be in the dress. Wear the pants. Like, basically just saying things that were like so against what I had learned, and that like how we dressed, God really cares, right? But I had gone many Sundays, and for me it was a huge sacrifice because at the time I was in college, I wasn't working, I didn't have a lot of money coming in at the time, and I'd either have to ask for money to get to church because I had to take like a bus to the Metro North, which is like the train system to west from, the Bronx or the city into Westchester County. So it was a sacrifice, and it wasn't necessarily expensive, but it was a sacrifice. And I often could get there, and then I would spend my last on the 10% tithe, and it was just a thing. And then getting home was another battle, right? So hopefully I had enough, and if not, I'd either have to find a ride or borrow some money from someone at church or figure something out. And I found myself going to church and often sitting there in the pew just feeling like, why am I here? Because there was, as much as this amazing pastor would preach things that were uplifting and go against kind of like that Pentecostal, very ultra religious, there's all these rules. There were these remnants of some of that there. And I remember this was one of many Sundays. I was sitting in the pew and it was a crowded church, like standing room only. But I found myself listening to the sermon, and like part of what I was going through at this time of my life is I was questioning my sexuality. Like, am I gay? Am I straight? Back then we only had a few categories. It wasn't like how it is now. And I was like, well, what am I? Like, what's going on? And I'm questioning my sexuality, and I'm listening to this preacher just being derogatory towards gay people. And I was like, why am I subjecting myself to this every Sunday? Like, why am I sitting here? Why do I keep giving my money away when this is not edifying me? It's not assisting me. And I know that there's other people sitting in this congregation that are just like me, either questioning. I used to say, people don't know that they're gay yet because they're very clearly gay, queer presenting, but they're not present to it, But I realized, this isn't assisting me in my journey. And being disparaging to gay people, but your choir director is clearly gay. But it's okay that you have your choir director that's gay, or, the people that do your hair and your makeup, and those people are queer, but you don't want them in your church. It's like, it's so interesting. And, if I am in your church, now I'm subjected to sitting there and feeling like, am I fucked up? Should I be ashamed of how I feel? Like, what's going on? So in that moment, it was very clear to me that God was not about shame. I really felt the dissonance in my spirit. And I knew that was going to be my last Sunday in that church. And it was. So, how our identity gets formed around guilt is even after we leave the building. The architecture of guilt stays inside of us like scaffolding. No one ever dismantled. And we grow up, we move on, we live whole adult lives, and yet something as small as resting on a Sunday, or saying the word no, or feeling joy in our own bodies still triggers a familiar tightness in our chest, or butterflies in our belly, or anything that just makes you feel like, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I supposed to be feeling? Because somewhere, somehow, that old wiring whispers, you are wrong for wanting what you want. You are wrong for being who you are. And this is where I want to bring in not two, I already told you one story moment, but one story moment that you can plug in your own lived memories. So I remember this moment. I was out with my aunt. My aunt was so amazing. It's so funny. I had all these amazing people, and as amazing as they were, there was another side to them that you were like, eek. But she was amazing in that she introduced me to so much that I had not experienced, like Broadway. I love Broadway. Theater kid in the sense that I love Broadway shows because of my aunt. I love going to see the Rockettes because of my aunt. I love going to the circus. She took us to all these experiences. And I remember when, I guess it is, it's so funny. I said it's not going to be two stories, but it is two stories. But I remember sitting, and we were out with my other aunt and my cousin, and it was myself, my cousin, it was a few cousins, but my cousin that was around the same age as myself, and then my younger cousins that we were raised together, so they're almost like sisters to me, but I just love them as well. So we were out, we were supposed to be going to, I don't remember where we were supposed to be going after, but I know we were having lunch or brunch or whatever. So we were out at this restaurant, or we just came from a show and we were out eating, which I love too, because she always took us out to these like fancy restaurants. And like, we didn't like, growing up, we didn't eat fast food a lot. We went to restaurants, we went to diners, like we went and had food. So not to say, anything about fast food, because sometimes it's fun. But we were like, and me and my cousin, we just were being kids. I don't know. We were like somewhere around, I don't know, between 7 and 9. Like we were young, and we were like teeing, like just having a ball, enjoying each other, because we didn't get to see each other as often as we'd like. So it was just fun being with each other. And we kept getting scolded for laughing. And we were like, oh my God. We were like, too loud. Oh, you're being too loud. You're doing too much. And we're like, okay. But I mean, we're kids. We're having a good time. We weren't doing anything. It wasn't like we were throwing food or silverware or anything like that. We were just laughing amongst each other. But I remember we got in so much trouble to the point where we got sent to separate tables. One of us got sent to one side of the restaurant because it was pretty empty. And then another one of us got sent somewhere else. Or I think one, I know I got sent to another table. I don't know if my cousin got sent somewhere else, but we got separated. And we had to sit alone for a certain period of time because we were doing too much. And I was just like, but we were just, and I said to my aunt, I'm like, we were just laughing. Well, you're doing too much. Okay, fine. So I remember that. And I remember, from that point on, now I always had laughing, having too much fun. I'm doing too much. So I need to like tone it down, like not get too excited. Because if I get too excited, I'm going to get in trouble. So that was one story. And then, so I that story came up. And then I remember like last year, I was sick, or was recovering from being sick. And I was debating, it was my Sunday to do my thing, to do my unchurch. But I was so still feeling under the weather. And I was like, okay, do I make the sacrifice and go and do this? Or do I just cut my losses and say, okay, I'm at my capacity? And I remember this whole battle that I had going on, and all this guilt rose up out of nowhere about, well, it's Sunday and you're supposed to be doing the things. And, and of course I like to keep my word because, people expect you. And, I like to keep my commitments as long as they're still aligned and they feel good. But the thing was, in this moment, it was like, I just don't have the capacity. So I realized all this guilt and shame had welled up in me, and even, and it wasn't mine. It was inherited, just like the shame around being too much. It was inherited. It wasn't mine. It didn't belong to me. So I get to reframe those experiences, the things that I took away from that. So let me offer a truth that I wish someone had whispered to me and my cousin when we were young. We were taught that guilt equaled God's voice. But often guilt was just someone's fear wearing a spiritual costume. That was one of those realizations that just shifted and reframed my whole experience around faith, church, the divine, and what a lot of organized religion kind of indoctrinates us, and then we internalize. So let's do some reflection. We had to do it. We did. So let's take a breath. Take a breath with me. Ask yourself, when did you first learn that being yourself made you unsafe? When did you first learn that being yourself made you unsafe? Whose voice do you still hear in moments of guilt? And does that person even know the real you? Do you even know the real you? And last but not least, what rule or rules are you still following that no longer has a name? So let those questions soften something inside of you. You don't necessarily need to answer them right now, but I would really encourage you to ponder them, to really think about, what rule or rules are living rent free in my head? They don't no longer have a name. I'm just doing the things because I feel like I'm supposed to. For example, this just came up and I was like, oh my gosh, just so funny. Like for a long time, when we wore dresses back in the day, when we wore dresses, we had a slip underneath it. If it could be a full length slip or a half slip. Those half slips, man, listen, between turning itself all the way around or kind of slipping down and you could see it, you didn't want to see it, past your dress, but we would wear a slip. So for a while after, growing up, I would still wear this slip. And then I was like, why am I wearing slips? Because what started happening is that the dresses started being made with a lining in the side of it. So I didn't need to wear a slip because it has a lining, because we wore a slip so you couldn't see through your dress. So when the sun shone, you couldn't see all the sun, the moon, and all your business, as our mama used to say. And but for a long time, I still wore this slip, but it would be hot. I'd be sweating, and I don't like that. And then I stopped wearing dresses because if I got to wear a slip, I ain't wearing no dang dress. So then I was like, okay, I don't need to wear a dress. I only need to wear something underneath it if you can see through it. And so for a long time, it was like to go out and not have a slip on. I felt naked. And I felt weird, and I felt like, oh, these are the stories. Like, what if I slip and then my dress goes up over my head? Now I don't have a slip on and you just see my panties, or you see my pantyhose, because we were still wearing pantyhose back then too. That was another thing, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, the slip and the pantyhose and all the things, like, no. I don't need to do that anymore, because yes, there was an element of modesty, because, when you have a slip a certain length, your dress, you can't wear a dress too short. So there's that, right? And again, the modesty with, not seeing through your clothes, even though, yeah, I don't know. I went to the store one day not too long ago and I was just like, are all the clothes see-through? Like what? It's just like, what's happening? I choose not to wear the see-through clothes. I'm sorry. It's just not my thing. I mean, if that's your thing, more power to you, sister. But I'm just not a wear the see-through clothes kind of girl. Unless I feel like it, or I'm doing something special. So, But yeah, let's take a look here at the difference between guilt and shame. Okay, I'm going to stop. So guilt versus shame. Here's the difference. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Whereas shame says, I am something wrong. So do you see the nuance there? And I think a lot of times we were indoctrinated, and yeah, maybe we internalized it, or maybe we were blatantly told, like, we're bad. Like, I know my daughter sometimes will say, I'm a bad girl. And I'm like, no, you're a good girl that sometimes has bad behavior, because I don't want her to internalize that she's bad, because she's not bad. She's a good girl. She's smart. She's brilliant. At the same time, there's things that, ooh, that's bad behavior, or behavior that's not kind. I use that a lot. Oh, that's not kind. That's not friendly, that kind of thing. So, and most of what we call religious guilt is actually shame in disguise. It's a belief that you, at your core, are unacceptable, are broken, are sinful, all fucked up, and need to be fixed. These invisible rules we still carry are, let's name some of these silently inherited rules, okay? So, a big one that I believe has really impacted a lot of us is feeling bad for saying no. This has created so many of our recovering people pleasers. So that's one, right? Feeling unworthy. Feeling unworthy or undeserving to receive help. Feeling watched even when you're alone. Like somebody's watching me. Oh my God. God sees me and he's like watching me while I'm in these throes of passion. How can you be passionate? How can you be fully intimate? How can you be fully present if you think someone's always watching you? Feeling sinful for wanting rest or pleasure or autonomy. Feeling like God is disappointed in you, basically by default. Each one of these could be its own episode, and we may revisit these individually. And each one could be its own liberation story, and that's what I'm wanting for you today. So now that we've named the wounds and what they look like, we get to move toward the part religion rarely gave us, and that's healing. So let's talk about what actually happens inside our nervous system when we grow up in a fear-based spiritual environment. So, 1, the body learns compliance equals safety. When you're raised in high control systems, your brain learns obeying keeps you safe. Questioning puts me at risk. So even when you leave, your body still whispers familiar warnings. Ooh, don't step out of line. Don't disappoint anyone because you're going to get the stare. Don't trust your own voice because it's going to get you in trouble. And let me say this very clearly. That whisper is not God. That whisper is conditioning. God did not give us this free will to come down and have this human experience to be like, oh no, don't use the free will. You want to be independent. You want to be autonomous. You want to feel pleasure. You want to have desires. You want to want things. Oh no. No. Wrong. No. God didn't do that. That is a man-made, made up version of God. We get, if you read religious texts, whether it's the Bible or the Quran or the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads or whatever book you may read, we do get glimpses of God. When we're talking about, when Jesus is speaking and he talks about his Father, right? We get glimpses of God, what God is really like. Not this angry, vengeful, narcissistic, you need to look at me, praise me. God doesn't need our praise. God is God. If God needs our praise, man, we're in danger. Because everything's a mirror. So if God needs our praise, then we need praise, then we need outside validation. That's not God. Am I grateful for all that I have in my life, all the blessings, all that I get to experience, all that is put into my life, into my sphere, on my path, all the opportunities? Yes, so grateful, so grateful. But I didn't have to do all these things for me to become acceptable in the sight of God. I am acceptable from the moment before I even got here. That's how God knows every hair on our head, knows us inside and out, already knows what we're going to do. So because we're predisposed. We came down to have this experience, but we have personalities. So, yeah, this personality that shows up for Sean, the tendency is going to be this. So if this shows up, she's going to do this, probably. God already knows. So you think God's like, gotcha, gotcha. I see you, you did the thing. You're going on my list. No. God, it's just like the whole thing about, oh, if you don't have on the right clothes, oh, if you're wearing pants, God could give two shits. You think God, the Almighty, Most High, is sitting up there like, Sean had on pants this week. No, I know. So that becomes whispers of conditioning. So let's give God a break. Let's let God off the hook, right? And let's just know that God loves us. God, we were magnificently made and born. We were born magnificent. We were born worthy and deserving. And there's nothing that changes that. We're not born sinful. We're not born all fucked up and needing to be fixed. It feels like that sometimes. It feels like that. I've been there. But no, we are born magnificent, beautifully made, just like everything else in the world. So you think everything else, if you look out at the beautiful nature and the trees and the grass and the flowers and the animals of all different shapes and sizes, and like, wow, how magnificent. But us, no, not us. Of course, God created everything. We're all images and representation and impressions of God. Two, how another way that this kind of, shows up in our nervous system is misaligned programming. So this is where we feel guilty for things that aren't wrong, like resting, boundaries, pleasure, saying, I don't believe that anymore is, oh my gosh, like brings up the tightness in my chest, right? Feeling desired, following our intuition, choosing peace over performance, leaving a high control spiritual system creates something called cognitive dissonance. Well, anytime you step out of your comfort zone, there's typically cognitive dissonance, right? It's where your old beliefs and your new truths collide. And the guilt spikes, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your identity is shifting. And the programming that's running is like, no, that's wrong. You're resting in the middle of the day. What is wrong with you? Are you sick? You want to feel pleasure, enjoy your partner and that experience? Oh, that's wrong. Or you want to enjoy your own experience of yourself, of your own body. Nope. Don't do it. This is the time that we get to spiritually detox. This is the in-between, the between two worlds. So the sacred unraveling. So I'm going to illustrate this with two really quick stories. So one was this moment. I have been connected to the spirit world in a hypersensitive, or whatever you want to call it, in a psychic, in a prophetic, whatever way, right? So I'm being led to do this. Okay, so our intuition, so often the church, organized religions this is where a lot of guilt and shame comes in. A lot of us are gifted, spiritually gifted. And what that means is, if you want to call it, you have your intuition or your psychic or your medium. Well, in church, all it's called is discernment. It's called prophecy. You have sight. Some people get their messages through dreams. Some people get their messages through music. Some people get their messages by touching someone or something. But when it's in the world, it's bad, it's shameful, it's witchcraft, it's demonic. And really all it is misunderstood. And truth be told, if we go back and look at the history, is that the church got the things that they're telling you are demonic. They got them from the demonic people and the witchcraft and just put it under their umbrella, changed the name and said, okay, here, we're going to give it back to you. But it's still the same thing. Having the sight, having prophecy, having discernment is the same thing as being psychic, following your intuition, being a medium. It's the same. Same gift, same things, right? Oh, don't mess with the crystals. They're evil. They're demonic. No. What do you think the breastplate of righteousness is? There's like hundreds of crystals in it. They're named in scripture. Crystals. Yeah. So it's okay as long as they get to use it how they want. But if we're like independent and using it in a way that they have not sanctioned, now it's the devil. Like playing cards. Playing cards, it's the devil. It's the demonic. It's like, no. The reason why you have the cards is because they were actually using them as the original tarot cards. And they switched it up and made it, because anything can be read. Shoot, we have something called the pendulum that can assist you with confirming things, right? But I can use a pendulum, or I can use my necklace. I can use a ring dangling from a chain. Like anything can be used. So I realized that this gift was given to me by God. I've had it since I was a child. I saw things I know I wasn't supposed to see since I was a kid. I could see and read into places, spaces, and people from a very young age. I had encounters with supernatural, paranormal, extraterrestrial things my whole entire life. And it's God-given because I've had it. I've had it since I was a kid. Have I encountered things that were negative or on lower vibrations? Yes. I'm still here. I was able to deal with each and every one of those using the tools that I had. And I realized, oh my gosh, my intuition is not dangerous. It's not a sin. It's not demonic. It is wisdom given to me by God to assist not only myself, but my fellow beings on their journey, allowing them to really understand that this is an energetic game that we are playing here on this plane. And then my second experience was, for a really long time, I've had this experience with my body, with being okay in my body, with loving my body, with appreciating my body, with allowing myself to feel alluring and be sexy and, really be relaxed in my body and allow myself to enjoy pleasure or rest or joy without apologizing. And for a really long time, when I was experiencing pleasure, I was all in my head. I was like, how do I look? Do I need to do this? It was more of a performance instead of actually being present in my body and really allowing myself to feel safe in my body, to feel safe with my partner, and to experience pleasure. Well, once I realized, okay, emotional regulation, regulate my nervous system. Remember I was talking about that, like being dysregulated? Okay, I'm safe. I have a partner that I feel safe with. I have a partner that I know loves me and wants to experience pleasure as well as give the pleasure. So this is give and receive. And of course, there's another layer to this as well with the whole giving and receiving. We're taught to give, especially as women, but not necessarily receive. But we are receivers. We are the lock to the key. So we are the receivers. We are made to receive, but we are conditioned out of receiving. So I remember when I did it with myself first, because I believe that self-pleasure is the way that you get to know your body, the way that you connect in with your body, the way that you feel your body and caress your body and know that I am safe in my body, and my body is pretty hot and tempting, right? Ooh, I turned myself on, okay? Right? If you don't turn yourself on, get in the mirror. Start going in the mirror, looking at your beautiful face and telling yourself you're beautiful and you're sexy and then, get in the mirror, like a long mirror. You graduate, and you can do it with your clothes on at first, and then eventually you want to take all of your clothes off and you want to look in the mirror and you just want to go, yes, like you just really want to enjoy yourself, whether you're a male or female. I think everyone really needs to really would be enhanced by really enjoying and experiencing their body in all of its fullness, and not having, and do it when nobody's home, so you don't have that pressure of like, oh, someone's gonna catch me, because that's another layer, right? But yeah, really experience that and have these moments of self-pleasuring, getting to know your body. What feels good to you? Oh, I like when I'm touched this way. Oh, I like when I'm grabbed over here. I feel, yeah, I like this. Like, what makes you feel good? Because if you don't know, how can you be with a partner? How can you experience anything with someone else, right? So once you have that experience, and really allow yourself to be in the pleasure of the experience, to be in the pleasure of the moment, to be, unbridled, unencumbered by, oh my God, oh, the kids are coming, oh, la, 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 like all the things, getting out of your head. And if you find yourself in your head, take a deep breath and just get present in your body, present with the feeling, present with what's going on, and have that experience, so that when you do get with a partner, you can do the same thing. And of course, safe partner, someone who's created a safe space, who honors you, that, it's not going to turn into, where you're fighting for your life. No, we don't want, that's not the time to be fully in your embodiment of your pleasure with your safe partner, and in a safe environment, right? And just allow yourself to have that experience. It is life changing. It is life changing. This is why so many women do not have the experience of orgasm, or because they are not present in the body. They're so worried about how they look. Which way is my boob going? Like, look, it's going all the directions at this point. At this stage of the game, it might be up here, it might be over here, it might be over there. Hey, look, they might be, who knows? I might have stepped on it. Look, hey, things is, hey, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not worried about what jiggly bits are over here, what's going on. I'm worried about, oh, let me experience the fullness of you. Let's reframe. Okay? Guilt is often a sign that an old belief is meeting a new truth. So let's give this some examples, right? I love to make it practical for us, because that's the way that we're going to be able to embody this. So often, like, when we feel guilty asserting a boundary, I really believe, like, we came to planet Earth and to have this human experience so that we could learn love ourselves, learn unconditional love for ourselves, and then of course everyone else, and boundaries. Because boundaries are for us. Boundaries are not for other people. Boundaries are for us. Boundaries are for us. And if someone else has to be different for you to be okay, it's not a boundary. It is control disguised as a boundary, or becomes a rule instead of a boundary. So that's going to be an episode. Thank you. So another example is feeling guilty when stepping away from certain beliefs. That's a big one. I had that big experience. Like, I felt wrong for sitting down the Bible and not reading it. I felt wrong for, I really wasn't into Jesus the way that people use Jesus, and make it this make Jesus this figure that we're worshiping and idolizing, when Jesus came to show us, hey, I'm just like you. I came as a man. I'm just like you. And everything I do, you could do. And if not better and greater. And just became the example of what was possible. That, yeah, we don't die when we die. There's a whole nother life after this. There's more after this. There's so many things that Jesus came to show, but again, man has corrupted and made it into a control thing, a way to control people instead of allowing us to have the experience of the divine. Another big one, another example is feeling guilty attending a different spiritual space. So a space that's not of your faith. I've been really blessed to experience different spiritual spaces, non-denominational, totally non-denominational, not just masquerading as non-denominational. I've been in Pentecostal space. I've been in Baptist. I've been Mormons. I've been in Islamic. It's been a really long time, but I've been in a synagogue. I've been in different spiritual spaces. But if you've ever gone into a spiritual space and felt like, should I be here? Oh, this is wrong. This is not what's supposed to be happening. That's one of these examples. Another example is feeling guilty exploring your sexuality. We, like everything, are a spectrum. Nothing is black and white. There's not, because right and wrong is not even right and wrong, because there's times where sometimes things that are like, oh yeah, this is right. Well, in this instance, that's not right. Because basically you're only manipulating. And something that's wrong, okay, yes, typically this is wrong. But in this situation, well, lying to the scammers, it's wrong, but, so feeling guilty for trusting your intuition. Our intuition, our discernment is one of our greatest tools, especially as women, because we have the womb wisdom. Men have it too, because we all have a sacral space, which is the womb area. But there's just a special womb wisdom intuition and knowing that we as women have instinctively, and isn't really it can be beat out of us or conditioned out of us. But most of the time, we still keep some semblance of it, whereas men usually lose it altogether. But not always, of course. So each one of these examples, it's not a moral failure. It's your spiritual growth brushing up against outdated programming. And it's okay. It's okay. Do somatic exercises when you're feeling like, oh my gosh, physically ill, or like you're having an anxiety attack, or you can't breathe. You just, okay. Take a deep breath in, and then when you exhale, let it out slower than you took in your breath. It immediately slows down your nervous system. I do this thing with my ears. I pull on my ears. I put my fingers in my ears, and I pull down. So it's resetting your vagus nerve. You could pull on your ears down on the bottom, or pull them up on the top. You could do something simple as look around slowly and see that you are safe. You are secure. There's no lions coming to eat you. And just learning to regulate your nervous system so that you can just know, okay, this is my programming. I'm butting up against the edges of my comfort zone, and I'm on the other side, and it's scary, and it's okay. So let's take a breathing moment, because I know there's been a lot going on, a lot, right? So let's pause. Let's place a hand on our chest and on your belly. And we're just going to ask ourselves quietly, what if my soul has been right about me the entire time? If my soul has been right about me the entire time? And let that land. Let that land with you. So in this moment, let's break out our journals and let's reflect. If guilt didn't get a vote, what choice would I make today? Ooh, let's do it. Let's do it. If guilt didn't get a vote, what choice would you make today? So feel into that. Because healing isn't the end of the journey. It's the beginning. Now we get to talk about how to actually live beyond guilt. Live in the embodiment, past the guilt, past your comfort zone. So how to live. And that is unchurched, or unchurched, as I like to say. So living unchurched. What does a life look like when you're no longer shaped by fear, guilt, or invisible rules? Let's paint that picture. Let's paint the picture together. So living unchurched means you follow your curiosity instead of coercion. Your curiosity becomes your compass. You choose your own values instead of inherited dogma. You build a spirituality based on resonance, alignment, and not pressure and coercion. You build community based on mutual respect and not shared fear and ostracizing. You let spirituality expand as you do. It evolves, it deepens, and stretches. You stop outsourcing your worthiness, and your worthiness returns to being an inside job. And that's the first way. When we stop outsourcing our worthiness or looking for our worthiness outside of ourselves, or I love, ever since I heard this, Brene Brown goes, when you're hustling for your worthiness, when you stop doing that, your life changes because you realize I am inherently worthy because I was born, because I'm here. Your worthiness becomes you. You become a woman of privilege. You become a being of walking in a certain air because you know you are worthy. You are deserving. You were born magnificent. So another way to embody this is you stop spiritualizing self-abandonment. Holiness is no longer measured by how much of yourself you can sacrifice. That is so huge because I remember when I was truly entrenched in religion and religious doctrine, there were so many things you're needing to sacrifice. Oh, if you don't do all of these things, but in not doing any of those things, are you living a life? Are you experiencing life? Everything in moderation, right? Because excess just leads to another thing, right? But in moderation, but also when you're living in alignment with yourself, there's things you're not going to do anyway. Like I personally, and maybe it is indoctrination, but I have a certain standard of dress. There are times that I do get sexy. You're going to see a whole bunch of thigh, but you ain't going to see my underwear. I don't like showing my bra straps. I just don't. So if I can help it, I try not to. Sometimes I want to dress a certain way. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make me any less of the divine, feminine, beautiful woman that I am. Just means I'm a little sexy today. You know what I mean? But I have a standard of dress that I'm not going to go past or whatever. For me, I'm just not, like I said, with the whole see-through things. That's not my thing. I'm not a big see-through clothes wearer. Now, will I put on something and have a sheer blouse on sometimes? Yeah, probably. You probably gonna catch it. And there'll be times where that's just not what I want to do. It doesn't change how holy I am, how devout and faithful or divine that I am. I'm still the same divine being, just because I have on whatever this is, right? So, but what works for you may not work for me, and that's okay too. That's okay. That's the whole thing. It's like the live and let live. It's like live and let live. Okay, I may not choose to do that over there, but am I going to tell you you're wrong? You shouldn't do it? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Well, if it's something that, I see an opportunity, I will encourage you. That may not be the best route to take, and there's consequences. But, if more power to you. Another way to embody this is you get to trust your inner compass again. That inner knowing, that inner intuition, that gut feeling you feel, or that little inkling, hey, why don't you do this? The God within you, the wisdom that has never left, and just allow yourself to really experience yourself. Trust yourself. And you can trust yourself. I know you're still here. You got yourself here. And if you didn't trust yourself, if you didn't listen to yourself, you wouldn't be able to get yourself where you are right now. A few ways this has shown up for me had been so liberating is really, there's been this whole thing around trans individuals, transgendered, transsexuals, all this kind of stuff. And just the LGBTQIA plus community in general. And, I can love and accept someone for wherever their choices are, because I don't have to do those things. You don't want to be a lesbian? Don't be a lesbian. But do I have to tell that person that they're wrong? No. And you can say, oh, well, it's in the Bible. Well, that was put in there. It didn't say that. Originally, it said not to be sleeping with little kids. But when it became inconvenient in the scripture, it was changed. Which is why I personally don't subscribe to the scripture. I read all the things. Because there is truth in the various scriptures. A couple liberating moments is that I am able to affirm someone who's in the alphabet people, the LGBTQIA plus community, without flinching. Because just because I wouldn't do it, just because that's not my cup of tea, just because I find it disgusting, whatever words you want to put on it, right? It's none of my damn business. What you do over there is not my business. Are you hurting anyone? That's between them and their divine alignment. Live and let live. It's okay. It's okay. Whatever you think about it, it's none of your business. Mind your business. It's okay. It's okay what they do over there. Oh, the men are doing the things. Okay. Now, are there things that I'm like, this doesn't seem like it works very well? It's like people just saying that they identify as something, and then now they're taking advantage of that. Okay. See, now we're in different territory. But the majority of people are just living their lives. The majority of people are living their lives just wanting to be who they are. Love how they love. It has no bearing on you, your family, what's going on in your world. A few other liberating moments was like choosing rest over hustle culture. Like, I'm a businesswoman, or trained to like, go, go, go. Don't burn the candle on both ends. But if you're not up at 5 a.m. in the morning and you're not going to bed at da-la-la-la, then you're not doing the things. You're the worst business person ever. you know? Um, but I have really learned rest. I love that there's a rest ministry. I love that rest is now a thing. And I don't have to do things the way that people say that, oh, this is the only way to be successful. Well, for you, but not for me. That doesn't work for me. Letting myself enjoy my body or my partner experience, life changing, life changing. Asking forbidden questions, spiritual questions, like really going down the rabbit hole of like, where did this religion come from? Why are there 17 other Jesuses? They're not called Jesus, but there's 17 other people that came to save the world. They were born to a virgin, and it's not 17. I think it's more like 13. But like, there's been other figures just like Jesus. So, maybe I need to go down this rabbit hole and see what's there. And anytime that I've broken a rule and just realized that the sky didn't fall, I didn't die, and everything is okay. So let these moments symbolize freedom in our lives as we embody them, experience them, and really allow ourselves to work through them. So let me offer one truth I hold really close. What if the divine has never been disappointed in you? Not even once. Imagine how differently you'd live if this were your truth. So I encourage you to really try it on, see how it fits. And if you don't like it, okay, go back to, doing what you were doing. But try it, see how it feels to know that you were born magnificent, magnificently made from every little hair on your head to the bottom of your feet. And how does that change how you show up in the world? So let's ground this in our imaginations. I like to do our visualizations when I can. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes if you can. And imagine a spirituality where you feel safe. You feel spacious. Your questions are welcome. Your pleasure is sacred. Your healing is holy. Your intuition is a place where God meets you, not a place where you betray God. Sit with this vision and let it linger. So as we close, I want to remind you of something tender. You're not losing your faith. You're losing the fear that was attached to it. Guilt is not your guide. Fear is not your teacher. Shame is not your spiritual inheritance. You are allowed to rebuild your connection to the divine in a way that feels honest, grounded, and deeply aligned with who you actually are. And if this episode cracked something open for you, if it softened something or made something inside you, exhale. Share it. Send it to someone who might need it, or message me and tell me what landed, or what opportunities you see. Your story is part of this Unchurched movement. You're free to go now with gentleness, with clarity, with your own soul back in your hands. Thank you for being here, for listening with an open heart, and for giving yourself the space to explore this part of your faith story. If something in today's conversation opened up a new truth for you or helped you release even a sliver of old guilt, I'm so glad you're here doing this work. If you want to keep these kinds of episodes coming, it helps me so much when you follow the podcast. Tap subscribe, leave a quick rating or review or comment, and share this episode with someone who might need this softness today. Save it if you want to revisit the healing parts later. Your support is what allows this Unchurched movement to grow, and truly, I'm so grateful So until next time, take what you heard today into your week with gentleness. And remember, you're not losing your faith, you're losing the fear that was attached to it. And I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for watching. Special thanks produced by Deshaun J. Moore. Music, I'm Coming Out by Anu at Anu Groove. Thank you to all my listeners. Follow me on social media at More With Me. Like and subscribe.